Hey there. Welcome to 1% English Podcast, the daily English show that trains your ears and your brain, just 20 minutes a day. Today, together with our two hosts, we'll explore a famous urban legend, Kuchisake-onna, the Slit-Mouthed Woman.
Urban legends, they aren't just like campfire tales. What's fascinating here is how these stories act as a mirror, reflecting societal anxieties and fears, and how they evolve over time. They tell us a lot. And Kuchisake-onna is, well, a perfect example of that kind of evolving reflective story.
That's a great point. It really reminds me how these stories aren't static, are they? They shift with the culture. So to kick things off, could you paint a picture for us? Who is Kuchisake-onna? What does an encounter actually look like?
Okay, certainly. So imagine a spirit, a malevolent one. In Japan, they'd call her an onryo, which is basically a vengeful ghost. She's often described as really tall, maybe 175, 180 centimeters. Some stories even say up to like 8 feet. And she has this long, straight black hair, very pale skin, striking white hands. By most accounts, she'd actually be considered quite beautiful, except for one crucial hidden detail, a disfigurement.
Okay, so striking, but with something terrible hidden. How does she usually appear? And what's her, signature approach?
Her signature is that she partially covers her face. Usually it's with a white surgical mask, like people wear for colds or allergies, very common. But sometimes it might be a hand fan or even a handkerchief. And importantly, she always carries something sharp. Scissors are common. Or a knife. Some versions even mention a machete or a scythe. Pretty scary stuff. And the name itself, Kuchisake-onna, it's quite literal. Kuchi is mouth, sakura means to split or tear, and onna is woman. So she is quite literally the slit-mouthed woman.
Wow, just the name gives you chills. So how does this terrifying encounter typically start?
Well, it usually begins when she approaches someone who's alone, often as a child, maybe walking home from school. That's a common setting in the stories. And she asks this deceptively simple question, am I pretty? Or maybe, am I beautiful? And this is where, your answer becomes absolutely critical. Life or death, really. There's no easy way out.
No easy way out. Okay, what happens if you just say no right away? That first question.
If you say no, the legend usually says she attacks immediately, kills you right there with her weapon. Some versions are even creepier, suggesting she might, follow you home and get you in your sleep.
Oh, no.
But if you say yes, then she dramatically reveals her face, pulls off the mask, and you see her true appearance. Her mouth is just horribly slit from ear to ear. And after showing you that, she asks again, even with this, or how about now?
Oh, my goodness. What an impossible situation. So what happens then?
Exactly. It's a trap. If you say no the second time, or if you scream, she kills you. But if you manage to say yes, again, even after seeing her face, she doesn't kill you. Instead, she takes her weapon, the scissors or knife, and she slices the corners in your mouth to make you look just like her. It's a really gruesome fate. And another thing, she's supposed to be supernaturally fast. So running away once she started talking to you, extremely difficult. So let me ask you, the listener, what part of that initial encounter sounds the most terrifying to you? Is it the question, the sudden reveal, or that awful choice you have to make?
For me, I think it's that impossible choice, that feeling of being completely trapped. It's just chilling because there's no right answer. You're condemned either way. It really speaks to that primal fear of encountering something you just can't reason with, where logic completely fails you. It really makes you wonder how anyone could possibly get away.
That's a really powerful point. That feeling of inevitable doom is what makes the legend so effective, I think. But what's really interesting is, while the core encounter, the look, the question, is pretty consistent, the origins of Kuchisake-onna, that's where it gets really tangled. There are lots of different theories and quite a bit of debate among folklorists. For example, someone like Matthew Meyer, who studies Japanese folklore, suggests her roots might go way back, like to Japan's Edo period, that's the 17th to 19th centuries. But then you have others, like Professor Ikuro Yoshiyuki, who argue strongly it's much, much more recent, specifically from the 1970s.
Wow, that's a massive difference, Edo period versus the 1970s. So where does the sort of modern consensus land? Which origin is more accepted now?
Well, the most widely accepted modern origin story pinpoints it to December 1978 in Gifu Prefecture. That seems to be when the story really caught fire and started to spread rapidly. It first showed up in print, I think, in the Gifu Daily newspaper in January 1979, just a local paper. But the big break, the thing that really pushed it nationwide, was when it got picked up by Asahi Weekly in March '79. That's a major national news journal, not just local gossip anymore. Suddenly, everyone was talking about it.
And the impact was real, wasn't it? This wasn't just talk. It caused actual panic.
Absolutely. We're talking nationwide panic. It got so intense that in some areas, parent-teacher association groups actually started escorting children home from school.
Wow.
Yeah, it really shows how deeply these stories can burrow into a community psyche and affect real-world behavior. It's quite incredible.
It really is. So, okay, we have this debate about when she started, but what about the why? The stories behind her injury, are those consistent?
Not really, no. That's another fascinating layer. There are quite a few variations on how she got that terrible slit mouth. In Japan, probably the most common stories involve an attack by a jealous woman, maybe her sister sometimes, or, and this is really interesting given the timing, a botched medical procedure, like plastic surgery gone wrong or a dental procedure. You can sort of see the anxieties bubbling up there in the 70s, right? About modern medicine changing beauty standards.
Right, a fear of beauty culture maybe, or medical mistakes. That makes sense for the era. But you mentioned there are other versions, especially popular outside Japan.
Yes, exactly. In the West, a very common origin story you hear is different. It often involves a samurai. The story goes she was his wife, or maybe a mistress, and she was unfaithful, adulterous. So when the samurai found out, in his rage and as a punishment, he sliced her mouth, marking her. This version obviously plays on different themes, honor, betrayal, that kind of vengeful justice. Oh, and there's a rarer version, even more grotesque, where her mouth is supposedly filled with lots of sharp teeth, just adding to the horror. And if we connect this back, her returning as an onrai, that vengeful spirit we talked about, it fits perfectly. In Japanese folklore, that kind of intense suffering or betrayal in life is often the trigger for creating such a powerful, often angry spirit after death.
It's really fascinating how one core terrifying image, the slit mouth, can attract so many different explanations, each one reflecting maybe different cultural fears or historical context. Were there other sort of alternative origin rumors floating around during that big panic in the late 70s?
Oh, absolutely. The panic itself seemed to generate its own mini legends, trying to explain the sightings or the fear. For instance, there was this story about an old farmer woman in Gifu. Apparently, she encountered Kuchisake-onna in an outhouse and was so terrified her knees buckled. There's a great Japanese expression for that: pure, paralyzing fear. Other rumors seemed to tap into social issues, like the idea that maybe poorer parents were spreading the rumor to scare their kids away from expensive cram schools. These jukus keep them home instead.
Huh. Using the legend for practical reasons.
Kind of, yeah. Or there was a report of a real incident, a 25-year-old woman arrested in Meiji City for actually dressing up as Kuchisake-onna carrying a knife. That must have fueled the fear of copycats or real threats. And one reporter apparently traced another rumor back to Okagishi City, also in Gifu. It suggested a woman from a mental hospital would escape at night, put on bright red lipstick to mimic the wound, and stand near a tunnel entrance just to frighten people. So, you see, these weren't just ghost stories. There were communities trying to make sense of the fear, maybe pin it on something real or even use it. And this raises an important question, doesn't it? How do all these wildly different origin stories manage to coexist? And what does that tell us about how urban legends actually work?
That's a fantastic question. It's like, are these different origins maybe a collective attempt to rationalize something terrifying, to give context to this primal fear, while at the same time letting the legend absorb different local anxieties or maybe even jokes? It's like the story itself is adapting.
Precisely. It's a perfect illustration of how legends are dynamic. They're not set in stone. They absorb things, they reflect things, they change depending on who's telling them and when. And it's worth mentioning, her status now is pretty solid. Shigeru Mizuki, who is like a giant in the world of Japanese folklore and manga, famous for his work on yukai. He actually formally recognized Kuchisake-onna as a yukai. For listeners maybe not familiar, yukai is the broad term in Japan for all sorts of supernatural creatures, monsters, spirits, demons. So she's kind of earned her place in that official pantheon, you could say.
Okay, so we've covered her terrifying look, those impossible questions, the tangled history. But let's get practical maybe. If you, our listener, actually ran into her, what then? Clearly just saying yes or no is a bad idea. But the folklore doesn't just leave you helpless, does it? There's this whole playbook of ways to supposedly outsmart her. Some are quite ingenious.
Yes, exactly. And these survival tactics, they're fascinating. They're not just quirky bits of trivia. They show this very human need to find some control, some agency, when faced with something terrifying and seemingly uncontrollable. People try to find loopholes, ways to exploit a supposed weakness or distraction. Even if it seems a bit absurd, they generally fall into a few types.
Okay, let's hear it. Lay out the survival playbook for us. What are some of these legendary escape routes?
All right, well, first you have distractions. The idea is to throw something she supposedly likes or hates to buy herself a few seconds. A common one is bigamy. Those are Japanese hard candies. Depending on the region, the story says she either absolutely loves them and will stop to pick them up.
Giving you time to run.
Exactly. Or in other areas like the Kanto region around Tokyo, she apparently hates them and will flinch if you throw them. Either way, it's a distraction. Similarly, showing her a block of tofu. Again, love it or hate it, depending on the local version, but it creates a moment's hesitation.
Okay, note to self, always carry hard candies and a block of tofu. Just in case. What else is in the playbook?
Right. Might be useful. Then you have verbal tricks. These are about saying something specific to confuse or repel her. One really odd one is yelling the word pomade 3 times. Sometimes it's 6 times.
Pomade, like hair gel?
Yeah, exactly. This connects back to that botched surgery origin story. The rumor was the surgeon used a lot of pomade, so yelling the word supposedly triggers her trauma, makes her recoil, and gives you a chance to bolt. You could even, throw some pomade if you had it. Other verbal tricks involve giving ambiguous answers. Instead of a clear yes or no to "am I pretty?", you reply with something like "you look average" or "you're so-so."
Confuse her.
Right. The idea is it throws her off script, confuses her long enough for you to run. Or you could try counter question. Turn it back on her. Ask her, "Do you think I'm pretty?" Again, the aim is confusion, buying precious escape time.
I like that one. Turning the tables. Are there any, maybe, less polite methods mentioned?
Oh, definitely. Some involve insults or things traditionally thought to repel spirits. For example, yelling "niniku," which means garlic. Shout "niniku, niniku, niniku, niniku," and run.
That's funny.
Apparently she doesn't like garlic. Or, a bit bolder, you could insult her by yelling "baldy, baldy." Apparently, insulting her like that might make her retreat in anger or shame.
Baldy. Wow, that's taking a chance. But I guess you'd be desperate. Any really strange or surprisingly polite ones?
There are a couple more. In Fukuoka, there was this very specific local belief tied to the arcade craze of the time. The story went that Kuchisake-onna loved playing the game Space Invaders.
Seriously?
Yep. So if you encountered her there, you could supposedly throw a 100-yen coin or two her way. She'd allegedly grab the coins and rush off to the nearest arcade to play.
That's brilliant and hilarious.
Isn't it? And finally, perhaps the most surprising one, just being polite but firm. Simply state that you are running late for an appointment. You have somewhere you need to be. The legend says she'll actually understand, maybe even bow and apologize for delaying you, and let you pass.
Just excuse yourself.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, all these different survival methods, they really highlight how communities take a legend and make it their own. They add local twists, reflect local interests like Space Invaders in Fukuoka. It's not just about escaping. It's about that communal process of storytelling, trying to regain some control over fear.
What an incredible journey that was. From that initial terrifying encounter, digging into her murky origins, and then exploring all these, creative ways people imagine getting away. The legend of Kuchisake-onna really is a deep dive into, like you said, the human psyche. It really reminds us that these urban legends, they're so much more than just scary stories, aren't they? They're living narratives. They reflect our fears, sure, but also our anxieties, our social concerns, even our sense of humor sometimes. Constantly changing, shaped by the people telling them.
Thank you so much for joining us on this truly fascinating deep dive.
My pleasure. And maybe as you think about this legend, consider the stories we tell today. Things that spread online, memes, stories whispered among friends. How might people in the future look back at our own contemporary urban legends? What will they think those stories reveal about us, about our hopes and anxieties right now? That's a really great thought to leave everyone with, and it actually ties perfectly into your 1% English challenge for today. Think about a scary story or maybe an urban legend from your own culture where you grew up. What fears or anxieties do you think that particular story reflects about your community or society? Try sharing your thoughts with a friend, or maybe just write them down. It's a fantastic way to practice expressing more complex ideas in English. And before we wrap up, let's quickly go over a couple of useful vocabulary words from today's discussion. We'll say them slowly and clearly.
Okay, our first word is malevolent. M-A-L-E-V-O-L-E-N-T. Malevolent. This means having or showing a wish to do evil or harm to others. It's like being intentionally malicious. For example, the villain in the story had a malevolent grin as he planned his next move.
Great word. Next up, we have mutilated. M-U-T-I-L-A-T-E-D, mutilated. This describes something, often a body or an object, that has suffered a very violent and disfiguring injury. It implies serious damage. For instance, the ancient manuscript was sadly mutilated with several pages torn out.
And our last one for today is ingenious. I-N-G-E-N-I-O-U-S. Ingenious. This word describes someone or something that is particularly clever, original, and effective, like a really smart solution or invention. For example, she came up with an ingenious way to fix the broken chair using only tape and a book.
Excellent. We really hope those words help you expand your English vocabulary and deepen your understanding. Thank you again for tuning in to The Deep Dive. Keep exploring, keep learning that 1% every day, and we'll catch you next time.
Congrats! You just crushed your 1% for today. If you're loving this podcast, show that subscribe button some love. And don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss your daily dose of 1%. That's it for today. Take care, keep growing, and we'll see you tomorrow.